I am a tattoo artist. I've done an apprenticeship the first year of tattooing. I work as a tattoo artist for 4 years now and I opened a studio recently. Me and my family are invited to a wedding that is taking place in another state. My cousin is marrying and we got the invitation a few months ago. Time has moved forward and now the wedding is in a week already. Out of the blue my cousin, let's call him Matt, texted me with something along the lines of "You're gonna tattoo me on my wedding day." I was a bit confused as I never even thought of bringing my equipment, since I also didn't plan a guest spot or anything. Guest spot is a tattoo artist working at another studio for a few days or weeks, mostly in a different area to grow the clientele. I jokingly asked if he has a machine, as I still hoped that he wasn't serious. He then just asked if I don't have one, and that one machine wouldn't take up that much space to take with. I replied that I didn't plan on bringing my equipment, that in fact contains more than just a machine, color, hygiene stuff, stencil that's the purple stuff you put on the skin to then trace the tattoo with actual needles, etc., and that I'm not prepared to tattoo at a wedding of which I don't know anything about, layout of the location, is it inside/outside and so on. He then said that he had planned on this and that it would mean a lot to him to both get a tattoo on his wedding day and that I'd be the one to tattoo him. Remember that this is the first time I'm hearing this. I again tried to explain that I don't feel comfortable with that and that it's quite short notice as I work until me and my brother fly over to attend the wedding and a tattoo needs to be designed first, right? He saw my message but didn't reply anymore. This morning my mother called and she was furious. She asked why I couldn't pull my shit together and just tattoo Matt. I told her what I've previously told Matt as well but she didn't want to hear it. She just said it would mean a lot to her and Matt's family if I do that and that it could be my wedding gift. Then she hung up. I talked to my brother about it and he just shrugged it off and said it would be nice of you, though I'm unsure what to do now. As I said, I'm not really comfortable with the whole situation, especially because I've never been guest spotting, so I never had to travel let alone get on a plane with my equipment. But is that just selfish? I mean, it would mean a lot to apparently everyone and I'm just saying no? Edit. 1. I do have an actual wedding gift already as they sent out a wish list with their invitations. There was a point that said artwork, because they recently moved into a bigger house and apparently they want random artwork to decorate. I oil painted them a painting I spent several days on, so I also don't plan to give him a voucher as a gift. 2. Maddie doesn't have any tattoos as far as I know. 3. I don't know what my mom's problem is with all of this. I think she just wants to keep the peace. Update 1. So the last hours have been a lot. First I called my mom and wow, she asked me again, this time very friendly, if I want to tattoo Maddie at his wedding, and again I said no, with all the reasons I've previously given her plus some of the very good points you guys had. Before she could say anything else, I added that I felt like she wouldn't take me and tattooing seriously. She didn't say anything for a bit until she tried to explain that she really thought it wasn't a big deal. I told her again that it is and that my mom of all the people should know how my job works. She agreed and apologized profusely. I then asked her if she'd like to attend and watch me work on a client's appointment, and to my surprise she said yes. Mom is tagging along tomorrow. Now to Maddie, or rather his bride. I finally got hold of the bride, say her name is Becky, and asked her about the request her fiancé confronted me with. She seemed surprised as she apparently had heard from my aunt that I made them something for their new house. She assumed it would be a painting since I'm the artist of the family and it's known that I also paint. I confirmed that, but that Maddie has come forward with this out of the blue and that it's not a good idea for many reasons. She agreed with me immediately. I think she does have tattoos. She thanked me for telling her as no one else did. Becky seemed really mad, but she seemed to pull herself together. I would have lost it. I'm assuming Becky confronted Matt after our call because only 3 to 4 hours later I checked the family group chat and there was a message from Becky. There will be no ceremony on the 13th as Matt and I decided we aren't getting married. Matt and I have things to figure out, so please text or call us tomorrow if you have questions. For the rest of the day we'll be on flight mode. After dinner Becky called me and apologized for Matt again. She said it was a stupid idea of his and that he just thought it would be cool. She then informed me that she still wants me to fly over for the wedding day as she will be hosting a party instead of a wedding. Everything is paid for anyways and she doesn't want anything to go to waste. I asked if they broke up. Not yet, but I'm gonna stay at my sister's place until next week. I'm assuming Matt hasn't been too great, but I'm sure I'll hear about it. Apparently my brother and my mom aren't invited. Lol. My call must have been the last straw, but as far as I am concerned Becky is handling it gracefully and Matt will be okay too, I'm sure. So I'm going to a party, but did I just make a new friend? Update 2. So because a lot of you wanted to know how the bring your mom to work day was, I picked her up in the morning and we headed to the studio. I showed her around, told her a few background stories about some of T. He artworks and photos that are hanging on our walls and explained her my routine as I prepared everything. My client arrived and I handled it like I usually would, just with my mom sitting there. Lol. I explained every step of the process and she also asked me questions about my ink, needles, technique, etc. It was a lot of fun having her around and she really did surprise me with her openness and interest. When I was done with tattooing my mother had to leave for work, but thanked and hugged me for bringing her along, as she not only enjoyed spending time with me but also loved seeing me doing my job so professionally and said that she sees my work and efforts now. To the wedding/party, the party started at 1400 hours as the ceremony was cancelled. I arrived and was immediately welcomed by Becky's sister. She hugged me and helped me with my painting. Everyone was outside, drinking and having a small bite already. I went to say hi to Becky and she hugged me warmly. She seemed tired but otherwise fine. Becky was also smiling a lot, which surprised me. I went to mingle as I didn't want to start off with questioning her lol. I met a lot of her friends and apparently the most of them weren't too fond of Matt. I heard a few things of how he tried to change Becky to be more like his ex and stuff like that. Not a great look, Matty. Speaking of, not a single friend or relative of Matt was around. Besides me and one other cousin. Later as we sat down to eat, I asked if could join Becky's table. They said yes, so I was sitting with Becky, her sister and 3 of her friends. I introduced myself to one of them, haven't talked to him before, and Becky added that I'm Matt's cousin, the one who was supposed to tattoo. A simultaneous "oh" came from everyone. And with that, the conversation was about Matt from the get-go. I asked what happened. The sister just rolled her eyes and was like, what didn't? Becky and friends told me, a while ago Matt has apparently started to pick on Becky for being herself in various ways. It started small, like asking her to change her sports routine from workouts to only running, then he criticized her cooking as he prefers to eat more meat and more traditionally. They discussed these topics and it always seemed fine, but he didn't stop. He asked her if she couldn't let her hair grow or get extensions, and speaking of hair, if she couldn't get them bright. Becky has shoulder-long black hair. More and more seemed to pile up until he also started to make comments along the line of "can't you be more like my ex?" As I understand it, he didn't say it specifically, but it was clear he meant it like that. His ex is from Texas. I was shocked. I asked why she didn't break up because of that, but Becky explained that in the situations it didn't seem as bad as when you list those reasons. She had also made a few changes to make Maddie happy but continued to do what she wanted most of the time. Time went on and the issues resurfaced again and again in different ways. The last big fight was only a few weeks ago, when Maddie called Becky by his ex's name. They somehow settled this, so let's skip forward to when I called Becky about the tattoo idea. After our call she went up to Matt and asked him why he didn't talk to her about it and why he would just decide doing something like that on their wedding day. He explained that he wanted to surprise her and stuff like that. Becky went on telling him this wasn't happening and that she wanted to be able to enjoy the wedding and their honeymoon. Again they seemed to agree in the end and he apologized. But later, this almost threw me, as Becky was starting to cook dinner and Matt was sitting at the counter. They talked about tattoos again, apparently really chill discussion about tattoos in general, and Becky asked him playfully what he intended on getting tattooed. He gestured across his chest and said, I want my birth date, our wedding date and your birth date, so / insert his BD / 06 13 2024 / insert BD / Becky said she went blind for a millisecond. That third date was in fact not her birthday. She asked him again and he repeated the same dates. She then said that this isn't her birth date. He persisted that it was and that she should stop trying to fool him. She said she started to cry and ran to get her purse to show him her driver's license. That's when his face slipped. He tried to get out of it by making excuses that he isn't good with dates etc., but Becky just went straight to her phone and checked Facebook. She found his ex's profile showing her birthday. It was the date he would have gotten tattooed on his chest, if I hadn't said no and also called Becky. My dumbass cousin would have ended up with the birthday of his ex-girlfriend next to his wedding date. Becky said he more or less told him it was over and that this is enough. She started to immediately reorganize the whole wedding and honeymoon while kicking him out of the house. A bit later she called me back. She also mentioned that she didn't want to say what happened on the phone as she thought I might tell my family and she really didn't want to hear about it. Fair, I get that. Becky changed the honeymoon booking and is now taking her best friend. Also, if you're wondering, Becky's dad is currently the owner of their house as they agreed to slowly pay him back, due to his financial wealth and stability that made more sense this way. As far as I know, Becky is going to stay there. Anyways, that's the tea, folks. This was truly a wild ride and I am pretty sure Becky and I are going to be good friends. We really hit it off. I don't have much dignity left for Matt, so I'm not sure I'll keep the contact at all. P.S. Becky loved my painting. Update 3. First of all, since that question came up a few times, I'm a woman. Well, Becky and her bestie went to Bali as they re-planned. During her vacation we texted quite a bit. Then they came back and we were still texting. First it was all very superficial and polite as she thanked me for telling her about the whole tattoo thing, that I showed up to the party anyways and that I still gifted her my painting etc. We got into other stuff like music, movies and hobbies. We have a lot in common. Turns out she is just as nerdy as me, so we could connect over anime and different games. I never had a female friend to share these interests. She's also coming over for a few days next week. I'm super excited. Anyways, I am super happy how everything went and to see that Becky is doing very good without my cousin lol. I think she's truly relieved and is beautifully blooming. Thanks guys for all your messages and comments, I really appreciate it. Update 4. I'm very excited. Becky asked me out on a date. It's only in October as she wants to take it slow and needs more time since the wedding isn't that long ago, but she wanted to make her current feelings clear to me. Now on to second story. Just discovered my fiancé asked to be in a polygamous relationship after spending time with his problematic friends who dislike me. I, 28F, and my fiancé John, 28 male, have been together for, as the title says, about 5 years. To understand the dilemma, I need to give you some background. We both came from very religious backgrounds, though it affected both of us very differently. John became a problem child, running away, causing problems, and eventually finding a crowd his parents would not approve of. Most of the members of this group were a part of the LGBTQ+, smoked pot, engaged in protests and were either atheist, or practiced different religion. Although some of the members since have left, this crowd became his current friend group. I won't go into details about each and every one of them, but the main ringleaders are Alex, 35NB, and Avery, 33M. From what I understand, they collected damaged people, as John jokingly said one day, and let them couch surf when things got rough. Alex is some sort of a Nepo baby and Avery works in IT, or something like that. John met them when he was 15. At first, I thought they seemed very cool and couldn't wait to meet them since John equated their relationship to that of a child and a parent, so clearly very important people in his life. But when I finally met them, when we were 21, and in college and home for the summer break, the meeting left me a bit disillusioned. Alex was catty and had snide remarks since I wasn't LGBTQ+ or anything, at most bi-curious, and Avery treated me like a child, but John said they always need to break new people in, so I tried to think positive and did my best to impress them with what I was studying and what my plans for the future are, both regarding me personally and my relationship. But the more I talked, the more they seemed to disapprove of me. Despite the strange meeting, John seemed ecstatic to see them again, and gushed about how much they liked me, so I kept my mouth shut and just nodded along. Now, to understand a bit deeper on who Alex and Avery are, in the town they live in, they're something like local celebrities. Very spiritual, their home is full of souvenirs they accumulated over all their travels, are also married, but their definition of marriage is very different from the traditional one. Apparently, they went to some tropical state and took some hallucinogens together, and in their state, they proclaimed everlasting love for one another. Quite a wild concept for someone like me, but I learned to be more open-minded since I left for college. That being said, they also said that they can see auras, whatever that is, and apparently love my fiancés. I don't know what they think of mine, but it probably isn't much. Which brings us to the topic I came here with. Last week, after we got home from work, John sat me down and asked me what I think about being in a polygamous relationship. He said he loves me so much, more than is possible, and doesn't know what to do with the rest of it, thinking that it's fair to give it to someone else. I, on the other hand, don't have a limit on how much I can love him, so I said no, and that was that. However, the question has been plaguing my mind ever since. If you knew John just a fraction, you'd know he researches about things long before he actually commits to anything, any lifestyle or relationship changes, whatever. This makes me think that he has already thought about it for a while, and that he also consulted Alex and or Avery about this. I don't want to villainize them, but I know, for a fact, they're not in a monogamous relationship, and they clearly don't like me as the rest of their little group. Again, I don't want to point fingers, and I won't ask John to show me his messages with them unless I have solid proof that isn't just a gut feeling, but I just have this horrible feeling that they, somehow, pulled in John. There's no way he just thought about it suddenly on his own. 5 years of relationship, and the idea of non-monogamy was never brought up, and now suddenly, just as we're about to be married, he brings this up? I don't buy it one bit, but I can't just go ahead and confront them now, can I? I just don't know what to do. I feel stuck. At home, I pretend everything is fine since my group of close friends told me that I'm just overthinking, and I believed it for a while, but whenever I look at John, all I can think of is, he thinks there's a cap on how much he can love me, and he wants to love someone else. I want to deal with this, but I don't know how. If I bring it up with John, he'll just brush it off as well, or he'll think I'm cheating or don't trust his friends. I worked hard to get their approval, and I know for a fact John shares everything with them. He wouldn't keep this for himself. Update 1. Me and John came from similar backgrounds, but my family was a bit less strict, allowing me to go to college since I had great grades. The plan for me was to move back after getting a degree, finding a job, a husband, and living the traditional life, which, obviously, didn't happen because I met John, who literally changed the trajectory of my life. After a year, I switched from my first major to one I liked more, and it's been a while since I contacted my parents. They didn't approve, of course, but with John's help, I didn't give in to their demands to come back. Now they know I'm getting married and are invited, but the last time we spoke was about 2 months ago. John has completely no contact with his parents since 18. I didn't talk about the friend group in more detail at first since I didn't think they were that important, but they do like me. At first, they were obviously a bit unsure since to them, I was a cishet white passing woman, but they warm up to me and I'm proud to call them my friends. The only people who didn't fully accept me are Avery and Alex, and since me and John got together officially, they tend to call me the wife in this strange, almost derogatory manner. It's not an important detail, but it gets on my nerves. Lastly, John is aware that opening up the relationship would lead to me being intimate, physically or emotionally, with other people, but he said it's a great chance for me to explore my bi side, though I haven't expressed the desire to really be with a woman in a committed relationship of that magnitude. On to what happened. I shot a message to John 2 days ago that we need to talk. He works from home, I don't, so as soon as I got home, We sat down to have an in-depth conversation about his proposal. I think he knew what it's going to be about, and I had the feeling he seemed almost guilty, but I ignored that and basically word vomited everything that's been on my mind. This is embarrassing because I wrote down most of what the comments advised and was prepared to have a mature discussion, but by the end of my easily 15-minute rant, I was in tears and he had to hold me, otherwise I'd crumble completely. The gist of what I said is that I'm hurt that he wants to fuck other people and that he doesn't care that I'd fuck other people too, that he believes there's a limit to how much he can love me and that I can't see where this all came from, that he just sprung this on me out of nowhere just a few months before we're to be wed. We tried to have a mature discussion, yes, but by the end, he was frustrated. He did apologize for making me feel less than, but said that my outlook on an open relationship is selfish. What it all boiled down to was that he feels he didn't have enough time to find himself before he committed to me, which is bullshit because he didn't show any signs of wanting more than I could offer. We were very happy throughout the 5 years. I really believed I met my soulmate. I realized that, since we were engaged, he seemed to talk more to his friend group, and by extension to Avery and Alex. Again, I don't want to paint them as these cartoonish villains, they're really interesting and all, but now I want nothing more than to scratch those self-absorbed, smug smiles off their faces. In the end, I demanded to see his phone, and he was shocked. We had a rule that we can see each other's phones, but we don't share passwords or anything since relationship is built on trust, and neither wanted to be a prison guard in the relationship. Nevertheless, he unlocked and handed over his phone, and I searched his messages, even deleted ones, and found nothing out of the ordinary. Then I checked the call log, and guess fucking what? Hours-long calls to and from either Avery or Alex. I was fuming, and asked him what the hell does he need to discuss with them this long, and mind you, these dated months back. John eventually caved in and admitted it was them who brought up the idea of open relationship, but they also talked about everything else since they're role models. John admitted had he started getting cold feet a while ago and needed a safe place to discuss this. I guess I, his wife-to-be, am not safe? Please make it make sense. Why even marry me, then? He promised we'd go to a couples counselor and fix all of this, his issues with marriage, the open relationship thing, the whole 9 yards, and that he'd book an emergency session with his therapist. That he loves me and wants nothing but to be with me. It was late, so we went to bed. Despite how messy this all sounds, I was a bit more reassured by this. I genuinely love him, even if my post doesn't reflect that very well. Though many people said to just leave, I want that to be the last resort. I was willing to jump through hoops to make this work. But guess who's the idiot? This morning, I woke up to an empty apartment, and a message on my phone from John, saying that he needs a few days to think this all over and needs space. He didn't say where he was going or when he'd come back. I called and messaged everyone I know, but no one can tell me where John is. I told him that he either comes back home in 24 hours, or this is over. As you can imagine, I'm a wreck. I took the rest of the week off and between crying sessions and staring blankly into the wall, I obsessively check NY messages in hopes of someone telling me where John is. To be honest, if he's willing to put me through this, I'm not sure I want to be with him. How can you do this to someone you love?